Mr. Hess, we're ready to go.
He said he's been around for about 5 years. He said he showed me a picture, it's gorgeous.
All right.
So white, blue eyes.
At this time, I'd like to call the Springfield Local Schools Board of Education special meeting on Thursday, November 4th, 2021 to order. Chris, can we please have the roll call?
Mr. Hofer,
Here.
Mrs. Dodson,
Here,
Mr. Petrie,
Here.
Mr. Hess,
Here.
Mr. Lance.
Here.
All right, all present, can we please stand to the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
what's that?
All right, item 4, citizen comments on agenda items. Citizen comments on agenda items are welcome at this time. Participants shall be limited to 5-minute durations. Do we have any citizen comments this evening on the agenda items? Not seeing any. We'll move to item 5, personnel. 5.1, resignation. Accept the resignation of classified employee Ryan Maloney effective October 24th, 2021. 5.2, employment. Employ Bertha Levitt as a 62.5% foreign language teacher per the negotiated agreement pending proper licensure, effective first day assigned. 5.3, employment. Reassign classified employee Joanna Hanshaw as a 2.5-hour everyday reading teaching assistant at Spring Hill Elementary per the negotiated agreement pending proper licensure, effective October 27th, 2021.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you.
That was Mr. Hofer.
Yes.
Mr. Petrie, second?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Hofer,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodson,
Yes,
Mr. Petrie,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
Yes.
Mr. Lance.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 6, rescinding of resolution number 21-140, resolution to require protective facial coverings. It is recommended that the board rescind resolution 21-140, requiring protective facial coverings.
So moved.
second?
Go ahead.
It was Chad and Mary Lou?
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Lou,
yes,
Mr. Hofer,
Yes.
Mr. Petrie,
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes. Motion passes.
No, Mr. Lance?
Yes.
Now the motion passes. I was too anxious.
Unanimously.
Yes. Item number 7, 5-year forecast. It is recommended that the board approve the 5-year forecast in Exhibit 1.
we don't have a choice, do we?
We do not.
So moved.
Second.
I imagine there will be some discussion.
Yeah.
Chris, do you want to start us off?
Yeah.
Please. You could have sent
Yeah.
a vote without discussion on this one.
It's in your financial recovery plan page. 4th page.
This one?
Yeah.
Couple.
This plan was put together, and we will notice that once we approve the financial recovery plan, then we're going to have another 5-year forecast that will be submitted to ODE. And that will include this forecast plus what we approve on the financial recovery plan to issue another forecast in late November. We could even have more forecasts in the future based on events that we'll discuss tonight that may or may not occur within certain timelines. Like for example, the big one that's going on right now is that building transfer. We're finally gonna do the building transfer. We submitted it to the Ohio Department of Taxation. They either approve or deny. My personal feelings is they're probably going to make sure that the OFCC is satisfied, meaning that they're gonna get their cut. They're gonna get their 25%.
Oh, so,
Right, okay?
Yeah.
That 25% is not in this forecast.
okay, so.
My assumption is we're paying them, okay? Once they're paid, then we get and then they call me up and they say, okay, make the transfer. The money is sitting in the construction account, okay?
It has been
Both-
for a long
both-
time.
For a long time. For the transfer to occur and then the check written to OFCC, that will handle that. But it's not a good forecast, and it's unfortunate, especially when we go over a little later on, all the things that we've done up until now. And I think that's the biggest point that we're gonna tell everybody, is we've done a lot. It's just that every year we don't receive additional revenue, we're in the hole, every year. That just grows. You know, it's not like we're 3 million in the hole, and that's it. You're another 3 million in the hole, and you're another 3 million in the hole. It's just a bad situation. But with the enhancements that are going on, with the proposed plan that we have now, that should satisfy ODE with the plan, the financial recovery plan. And I guess if you look down at your fund balances, line 10.01, without the plan, we're in the hole $1 million, $1,053,000. Okay, with the plan, we're in the plus 193,000, and you can see year 2, we're in the plus $1.7 million. That's even with ESSER money. I can only imagine what it would be like without the ESSER money. We'd be in the whole millions and millions of dollars. So let's.
Well, they actually owed us that money.
Right.
I mean, it was, I guess you can say a gift, but they took it away from us.
Correct.
Well, and I'll also say, when we talk about with the plan, we're plus 1.7 million in 2 years, but the plan will have a devastating impact upon the quality of education that we deliver.
Absolutely.
So we've got to find, in my opinion, another way besides the plan to get back in the black.
I think we all agree with that.
The plan is not the solution. It's the
plan will,
doomsday scenario.
Will negatively impact the education of our children. We all know that.
Yes.
Well, it's been doing that forever,
Yeah,
Chris.
our children deserve more. And I've said it many times when I get up here, that what we need, we'll see what the future may bring. It's not gonna change anything. The deficit will continue to grow. The community's gonna have to make a hard choice. And I'm optimistic. You have to be to show up to work every day. If you don't, it's. But we are, I mean, as far as looking at all of our costs, digging in, we do have some, as I told you, some recent success with challenging recent property sales, commercial to be exact. We're being much more aggressive in those areas. The future, we have a lot of things coming up in the near future, a lot. We have our negotiations again that nobody likes to do. But it's, you know, we only approved a 1-year contract, so we have that. We have a change. We have a big change coming up in January. There's just a lot of things that are going to happen. And I guess the only thing I can say from the Treasurer's Office is we have to maintain a positive attitude, and we have to always remember who we're serving, and that's the children. I think that's the hardest thing for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the forecast, if we do nothing, by 2026, we're in the hole $8 million, basically,
What line you on?
10.
Yes.
So, doing nothing is not an option. We either need to raise
No.
more money, we need to make more cuts,
Right.
but we
You
can't.
know,
do
there's
that.
a lot of discussion, out in the community. Well, let's just go into fiscal emergency. Look where it got us last time. We turned it around. There's a big difference between last time and this time.
Yeah.
When I got here 10 years ago, we were just starting the fiscal emergency process. And we had staffing for 3,500 kids at that time. We got together, reduced cost. In a matter of a year and a half, we went from a negative 2 million to a positive 4 million without any levy. We were the only school district in the state of Ohio to get out of fiscal emergency without approving new money.
Right.
That was a very unique situation. That will not happen this time.
I was gonna say, that's a one-time and done.
We don't have it's not like our buildings people are bumping into each other. Everything we've done in the last few years just continues to whittle down programs and teachers so that option is off the table. We can only hope for two things. We can hope for the state of Ohio to get their act together, pass a true child funding act that's been proposed time and time again. And as Mary Lou would say, don't hold your breath on that one. I don't hold my breath on that one. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Or come up with significant revenue streams. That's the only thing we can do.
Chris, that 1.2 million, is it true, it's not a true 1.2 million that we get because the state's cut's about 25%, correct?
Correct.
So we really only end up with about 850,000, if I remember correctly?
No, their number's about 250. We'll get about $1 million.
$1 million?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, whose money is it? Is it money that we've generated from that building fund?
That is money that is left over from the building fund.
Oh, so the
So when we
Ohio
pay all the
Facilities,
bills-
the Ohio Facilities Commission want their little penny back.
Yes.
And the reason we haven't paid them back is when we went down, Chuck and I and some others went down to negotiate, I don't know if you remember this, that shaky floor syndrome cost us $3 million,
Yeah.
which we would have, if we didn't have that shaky floor, we would have been able to do the girls softball, the boys baseball, all on one campus. Well,
Right.
that didn't happen. So we went down to try to get our money back from the people that built an inferior product. We got half of it back. We got 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Well, in that discussion, I went up to the FCC lawyer and said, there's that 25% still dangling. And what was said and what is going to happen doesn't match, I guess is the right way to put it.
Never does.
No. And so I was hoping, and under your direction, you were telling, don't pay them. So I didn't.
Did that ever get settled? I know the OFCC stepped in and settled it on our behalf, unfortunately.
Yeah, but they're still getting their 25% cut. Yeah.
Yeah, because they really need the money, because they have a lot of kids to educate, don't they?
Mhm. So that situation, if that occurs this fiscal year, which it will, then we will put together another financial recovery plan, which means that ESSER monies that were originally earmarked towards for 23 and now is in 22, meaning we're going to use some of the funds, that will go back to 23 because we got the transfer.
Okay.
At the end of the day, the total amount of money is the same. It's just a matter of what year we want to use it, because we can't show a deficit this fiscal year. If we show a deficit this fiscal year, we'll go into fiscal emergency. And fiscal emergency is, like I said when I started this conversation, you want to do everything in your power. Not to. You want local control. You know, the newly elected board members want to be able to control their destiny, as you guys did, right? You don't want somebody telling you what to do. They don't know your children like you know your children. They don't know the programs. They don't know, you know.
They don't care.
Right.
They strictly just don't care.
All their job is to balance a budget.
Right.
Yeah, they don't care how.
So we'll get into in the financial recovery plan, we'll get into all the details. The first 4 pages, I think, up until this is the important thing. It shows us what has been done, and that's important. We haven't sat on our hands. It's just that, you know, I say this and I'll continue to say it, you can't go 20 years without new money, without devastating an impact. There is no other district around us that has gone 20 years. And so we have to figure out a way.
And it's fair enough to say that when the ESSER money runs out, we'll go back to, correct me if I'm wrong, the ones that have been working on that, we'll go back to state minimum curriculum. Because we were there,
Yeah.
correct?
It'll be, as we've said many times, it'll be cutting through the boat because we've already cut 2 up.
I think in Neil's terms, I think he said we cut limbs off.
Correct. Any other questions? Great, thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
We have a motion and a second, right?
We do.
Okay. Mr. Lance?
Yep. Unfortunately.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Ms. Dodson? This is for the forecast, not the recovery plan.
Yes,
Mr. Hofer?
Yeah.
Motion passes. Item number 8, financial recovery plan. It is recommended that the board approve the financial recovery plan in Exhibit 2.
Oh, you need a motion to get on the table, then so moved.
Thank you, Dave. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Larry. I believe,
Justin's gonna.
I'll get you, I'll start off and then we'll go to Dustin and Chris on a presentation. Last October 2020, the Ohio Department of Education declared Springfield local schools to be in a state of fiscal caution. The declaration was based on an anticipated $1.8 million deficit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. At the time, the district developed a corrective action plan. Our plans was to reduce services and pass an operating levy. We reduced services and tried 3 times to pass an operating levy. As a result, the auditors state, the Ohio Department of Education determined Springfield be placed in fiscal watch. When school districts enter into fiscal watch, they have 60 days to submit a fiscal recovery plan to the state superintendent. We've been working with the board on this recovery plan. These are difficult times, and we need to keep moving forward. And like Winston Churchill says, if you're going through hell, just keep going. We got to stay positive. We got to keep moving. And I'm going to ask Chris and Dustin to kind of go over this fiscal recovery plan.
Okay, Mrs. Meadows, if you can, we have the PowerPoint for the presentation here on the back screen. You'll see fiscal oversight by the Ohio Department of Education is broke down into 4 areas: precaution, fiscal caution, fiscal watch, and fiscal emergency. The first few slides here are gonna be a recap, history lesson, if you will, of where we've been since July of 2020. We even started that just before that. We were actually declared in precaution in July 2020, but, looking ahead, we started taking some preemptive actions just before that declaration there that we'll talk about in a moment, so. Next slide. In the spring of 2020 there, these preemptive reductions that we made there were mostly in May of 2020. There, we're reducing 20.75 positions, reducing $1.48 million from the budget at that time, and that was 3 tutors, 13 teachers, 1 administrator, 1 maintenance staff, 1 secretarial staff, 1 7-hour cafeteria and outside services, and at that time, our employees took a base pay freeze for the 2021 school year with SLACT and OPSI agreeing to that June or July, I'm sorry.
And that was across the board, right, everybody?
Next slide here, we moved into, on October 9th, 2020, we were declared in fiscal caution. Fiscal caution exists when budgetary conditions that, if uncorrected, could result in fiscal watch or emergencies. So, we were there, and at that time, we came up and approved one in December of 2020 and the other in February of 2021, a financial recovery plan and a revision to that financial recovery plan that was necessitated by ESSER dollars starting to come through at that point. So we had those 2 financial recovery plans, but in the effect of those in January 2021, we made mid-year reductions that year of a clerk position that was in the treasurer's office, 4 custodial positions, 3 library clerk positions. We reduced the athletic secretary by 50% and reduced 1 bus route at that point, as well as implemented pay to participate with a $300 fee at that time. And then continuing on into the spring of that year, we reduced 20.5 positions, and those primarily around the closure of Young Elementary there. The partial year reductions from January 2021 mostly continued. There we did, due to coming back in school with all of our students, we did bring back 1 custodial position to keep up with the demands of cleaning with COVID, and the libraries were reopened at the K-6 level with reduced availability, but they were reopened so that all the students there had access to that. But then the athletic secretary position was completely eliminated in October of 2021 there as we came through there. And again, unions agreed to take a base pay freeze at that for the
That should be
21-22. Yes, I'm
okay.
sorry,
No,
21-22 school year.
Again, across the board,
Yeah.
20 for this, that was for this school year,
Correct.
21, 22.
And then, in the spring of 2021, there were proposed cuts for the 21-22 school year of state minimum transportation, 3 art positions, 3 music positions, 3 physical education positions, 2 foreign language positions, 1 family and consumer science, 1 OWA, 1 reading, and some consolidation within the cafeteria positions. Those reductions there were placed on hold when the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 came through with the ESSER 3 funding, or ARP-ESSER as it is referred there. So those were planned reductions that were placed on hold. Then this fall, on September 14th, 2021, Fiscal Watch was declared based on the
the deficit that we had in fiscal '21, as well as potential deficits in future years based on the 5-year forecast at that time. And then fiscal watch, some differences. One primary difference from fiscal caution is that it can only be declared and terminated by the auditor of state. There's a recommendation that goes back and forth between the Ohio Department of Education and the auditor of state there to make that declaration. The financial aspects of the district are monitored by ODE. There's been a, Chris, you may be able to talk more about, or want to talk about the monthly monitoring that ODE is conducting, just staying well apprised of the district's finances each month as we are in fiscal watch, and that started back in fiscal caution, but is accelerated, I would say, in fiscal watch here.
Yeah, there's a team in Columbus that once we close our books each month, we input the data into a spreadsheet, and then we have to explain the differences. And for example, like if purchase services, that's going to happen this month because we spent more than what the original budget was. Then I'll have to go through, find out what actually hit the books. It's mostly timing issues, meaning that what was paid for, say, in October of last year or November of last year, got paid in October this year. That happens. So it's just another oversight. It's more work, but they're going to watch everything that we do. They call me a lot. One of the big items was the real estate. I show an increase this year from our real estate taxes from last year. I explained to them that we had a valuation change last year, and we only received half a year last year. We'll receive a full year's collection this year based on the valuation that changed. We all know it. The people that live here, they saw what the impact was on their own tax bill. So just a lot of oversight.
So one of the other requirements in fiscal watch is the submission of the financial recovery plan, which is what's on the table at this point. And that is required to be submitted back to ODE within 60 days of declaration of fiscal watch. A performance audit may be conducted, has been conducted. They're still analyzing all the data and pending the report from that performance audit. And then failure to submit, update, or implement the financial recovery plan could result in the Auditor of State's office placing the district in fiscal emergency. Again, part of the oversight that Chris was talking about, the implementation of the financial recovery plan will be part of the monitoring that ODE will be conducting while we're in fiscal watch to ensure we're on track with everything that we say we're going to be on track. And then this is one of those just items for clarification for everyone that no solvency assistance advance is available when you're in fiscal watch. That is something that we'll talk about later that is available, and we'll talk about the details of that, but something that is only available in fiscal emergencies, so not something that can be utilized in fiscal watch.
So they want us to go into emergency. We'll give you help when you get there, but not until then. Got it.
So the financial recovery plan, as I said, has to be submitted within 60 days of the declaration. The plan is to eliminate the current deficit and avoid future deficits. Once submitted, the state superintendent or designee will evaluate and accept or reject the plan within 30 days of us sending it to them. And if it is not approved, they will recommend modifications that we would make the plan acceptable. We have been working with them through the development of the plan to get their feedback and recommendations as we move through the creation of the plan here already at this point. So, and then the board must submit an updated recovery plan annually as we move through fiscal watch.
And I assume the board could update the recovery plan sooner if conditions change?
Yes. Yeah, if, the current recovery plan does not include the transfer that Mr. Adams was talking about because it's not been approved yet. So once that is approved and an updated recovery plan would need to be put in place to address those changes to the budget, or if any other conditions changed. So the proposed financial recovery plan is summarized on screen here. Some of the phase one items that would be implemented this year, some that have already been implemented. One of our IT technicians left for another opportunity. We are not planning to replace that position at this time. Again, another situation where a 2-hour cafeteria worker, that position was vacated, so we've not replaced that position. Proposal would be the reduction of that custodial position that was brought back at the beginning of this year, reducing it 50% to a 4-hour a day position. And that position splits back and forth between Spring Hill and Schropp Intermediate. So instead of being 8 hours every other day, it would be 4 hours every other day there. And then we are still working through the details of teaching aid reductions that would affect two positions there. Phase two, which would begin in the fall for the 22-23 school year, would be returning to or going to state minimum transportation. And again, that is transporting grades K through 8 that live more than 2 miles from the school building that they attend.
K-8 was everybody.
No, it would be no
No high school.
9-12.
So if you have an
Transportation.
8th grader and a 9th grader, then 8th grader can ride the bus, but the 9th grader can't. And that is,
By the black and white of the law, yes.
yeah, then that's the stupidest thing you ever heard in my life, but
I would agree with that.
I, go ahead, I'm sorry, don't interrupt, go
That's all
ahead.
right. In addition to state minimum transportation, that would be 7 FTE, full-time equivalent teachers in grades K through 6, 2 FTE teachers at grades 7 through 12 through reductions in the academic assist program. We did note in the financial recovery plan that those reductions could necessitate some an increase on offset there in study hall monitor in order to cover the classes there. But that's yet to be determined until scheduling is in place for next year. There is a art position, a music position, a gifted position, and a special education position that would also be included in the proposed reductions there.
Now again, that could change if we receive the okay from the Department of Taxation, that phase two get pushed.
On screen now is the before and after of line 10.01 of the 5-year forecast. As mentioned in fiscal 26, we'd be at about almost 8 million in the hole with the reductions that are in place. And again, this is without the transfer from the building fund at this time. The after, we would have a positive balance in the first 4 fiscal years, and then as Chris can say much better, a lot of times that 5th year starts to get a little unknown out there. I've heard him refer to this as the 5-year guess a lot, so that 5th year gets a little unknown there. So, and it does even in the here in the recovery plan here. So that's the before and the after that we would be looking at. As we talked about, or Mr. Adams mentioned earlier, the next slide there would be fiscal emergency. We obviously don't have any information there as we've not gone there, but some of the key items, at that point, the solvency assistance is available, but it's really it's a 2-year loan on your own money that you're getting through the foundation that you have to pay back, so
Yeah.
it may help move things around a little bit, but it's not, extra money that you're getting necessarily through that solvency fund.
We
so.
did that last time. I remember, I believe we had a loan last time as well, didn't we?
We didn't have a loan from the state, we had a personal loan from a bank.
I think that's, did that start under Gamble?
I did.
Yeah. We canceled it, once
Fi-
we determined-
Financial or fiscal emergency would also mean the establishment of a financial planning and supervision commission consisting of 5 voting members, and that commission would be required to be appointed within 15 days of that declaration and adopt a financial recovery plan that they develop and implement within 120 days of its first meeting. So that's where Mr. Adams talks about losing the local control. This commission will come in and develop
They developed the plan and tell us to do it.
we would be part of developing the plan, but they're under their oversight, yes.
Yeah, but they don't reduce it.
No,
They make the board reduce it,
yes.
correct?
So, any questions?
How much have we cut so far? How many programs have we cut so far? How many kids, we don't have Spartanaires this year, right?
Yeah, I can't say specific how many programs, when I was looking at the numbers earlier, we were over 3 million that we've cut.
That we've cut.
It looked like in the presentation, over 40 positions
Yeah.
since 2020.
Yeah,
So that's a lot of positions in less than 2 years. And, looking at the before and after, even if we approve the financial recovery plan, if we implement it and all these people actually get laid off next year, we're still in a big deficit in, 5 years, if nothing else changes. I mean, at the end of the day, the people of this community have got to pay more for these schools. That's it. That's the only solution. There's no cutting our way to prosperity.
exactly. I just can't support any more cuts. Can't support it. We've taken enough away from these kids, and I'm not taking any more away. Not gonna do it. Not gonna look in those eyes and tell them, kids, nope, sorry, you don't have this, you don't have that. I'm not gonna look in a teacher's eye and say, well, I'm sorry, you lost your job. Not gonna do it.
So the cuts would, tonight we're just contemplating a plan. The
Right.
cuts would actually have to occur next year, possibly.
There are some mid-year cuts that would be
Right.
presented in December to begin in January.
I won't do it.
And those could get delayed, possibly, Chris? Or those cuts won't get delayed next year?
Yeah, we could with, again, there's a lot of things coming down the pike. We don't know what the future may bring. Negotiations, we have the transfer, so I believe the transfer is gonna occur, so that will cause us to put a revised financial recovery plan. I don't think it's wise, though, to give hope right now. I think we need to understand the seriousness of the situation. You know what I mean? And I don't want to give hope. I do want to give hope, but I think we need to prepare ourselves for some tough decisions.
Yeah. But I guess my point is potentially the citizens will have another chance in the spring of next year to help avoid.
If the Board of
Catastrophic
Education,
cuts.
they'll have to act quickly, like by the end of January. But that's not a problem. We can do that. If there is a desire to put another smaller levy on that, or, we know what happened with the last 7.7, right? We know what happened with the income tax. I think there needs to be discussion on options. It may be a smaller version that people can wrap their head around. which, meaning that it's not, you know, we're talking maybe $100, $200 for the whole year.
Chris, with the new evaluation, wouldn't the millage go down just?
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
yeah. Yeah, so there, things, what we're presenting tonight, things will change in the future. We just need to have it in our mind that this is what the state wants if we can't get a levy passed, if we don't get this transfer, if, you know, a lot of ifs.
Eventually, this will happen if we don't get new money.
Yeah,
There's no way to avoid
no,
this if we get, and even if we do this, someday we're gonna be in the exact same position again without new money. That's just inevitable. This community has to pass new money at some point.
See, and Mary, can you go back to that other slide with that one? That's the problem, down there in the green. That's the after, and that's all people look at. In another year, you're gonna have 1.7 million. They don't need new money, they need to spend what they have wisely. That's with cutting these, that's with these new cuts. That's not helping anybody. The only person that's helping is the person that doesn't wanna pay a few more dollars in property tax. That's it.
Well, and, you know, one of those things you can't foresee is I still think if the board next year implements these cuts, you're gonna see a further mass exodus of students, which is gonna further decrease the money we take in. And you're gonna run into the red a lot sooner than 5 years because of that mass exodus of students.
It's twofold. It absolutely is, Neil. You put it exactly. You're gonna make cuts to get that 1.7, but you're gonna have kids leave the district, families leave the district, and that 1.7 is quickly downsized, dwindling after that because of the cuts.
The district needs new money. Hopefully, it'll happen next year.
And again, this is with ESSER money. This is with handout after handout that we've gotten. It's not,
No, it's just money that they gave us back that they
well,
took,
you can call
actually.
it, you can call it what
Yeah.
you want. They took $1 million, but they gave us 4.5, but still, we're staying out of fiscal emergency right now because of ESSER money. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
Or I
True.
firmly believe we'd be in it already.
And these cuts
Yeah,
would
we would be.
have already happened.
Yes,
that's correct.
these would have been on top of last year's cuts, which would have been even more devastating.
And I think the community has to understand, even if we go for a small levy, it doesn't solve our issues. Because as an organization, any organization I've ever been involved with, in order to do any proper planning, you need 5 and 10-year goals. A small levy will not get us a 5-year goal. It will not restore everything that we've had to cut back to where we were 40 jobs ago. I mean, it just doesn't do it. It's the slippery slope. If the community doesn't want to support the school, it's the slippery slope that I think you have to have the honest discussion, that if you don't want to do it, you're going to either end up being consolidated by the state, and they'll come in and do that, and you'll become either part of a talmadge or a lake or a field.
You won't be like
Akron.
Stark County.
They'll carve it up, guarantee it. It's already happened in, Chuck, it was Berkshire,
Yes.
up in Jogga County.
Yeah, and check out their taxes.
And that was a wealthy community that didn't want to pay, and the state comes in. You got to look at yourself in the mirror and figure out what you want. Small levy will not get us, doesn't restore, it just prolongs the agony. So you're gonna have to take a long, hard look in the mirror. Run the numbers, if you think we're blowing smoke, run the numbers. Some people say, well, we need staffing pay reductions, and that's not gonna get you anywhere close. My 2 cents.
I know I haven't lived here all my life. I'm not a lifelong Springfield resident or alumni or anything, but this district, even with these cuts we've made, this district never got back what they cut in the last fiscal emergency. So we're just adding to the stuff that these students don't have on taxes that were implemented 20 years ago. it's sad.
Yeah, I mean, we got out of fiscal emergency last time, but we never recovered from it.
No, and, you know, as Chris pointed out, you know, at that point, we were 10 years from new money, and we got out of fiscal emergency without a new levy, which is good, but look how much it hurt us now.
Yep.
Dustin, the revisions that we got through the week, those were a result of discussions with the state.
Yes,
And so we have some indication that they're gonna accept this plan when we submit it. Because I heard in the presentation, state superintendent has to approve it.
yeah.
So we've got a pretty good indication that it's gonna go.
There is further review to be done, as I was told this afternoon, but we're on the right track.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
All right, Chris?
Do you have a motion and a second?
Yeah, Dave made the motion and Larry seconded it.
Okay. Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
Mr. Lance?
No.
Hold on. Mr. Petrie?
Yes?
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mrs. Dodson?
No,
Okay.
Motion passes.
Wow.
Item number 9, citizen comments. Participants shall be limited to 5-minute durations. Are there any citizens' comments this evening? Seeing none, I'll move to item number 10, executive session. It is recommended that the board go into executive session at this time to discuss the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee, or the investigation of charges or complaints against an employee, official, licensee, or student, unless the employee, official, licensee, or student requests a public hearing, and matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or rules or state statutes. May I have a motion?
So move?
Second.
Thank you. We are in executive.
You got both. Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
Mrs. Dodson?
yes.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Lance?
Yes.
All right, now we are in executive.
And we, no business after, right?
No
No
business
business.
after.
We're gonna go down to the break room right down the hallway here.